such a beautiful story. I wanted to play that for you today because people have lost faith in God. And when you think of all the gifts that we have in our lives, they've all come from God. But then we want more. And just like Master's friend, he immediately forgot and said, well, where's our food going to come from, and where's this going to come from? It all comes from Divine Mother. And you think of all the beautiful stories in Autobiography of a Yogi, the various healings and the different things that happen with the great masters and the saints and their levitation and bilocation and healing of different devotees. It all was a gift from Divine Mother. And none of that came from them personally. It came as an energy through them. And Master's life was such that he showed it in every turn how God was the only reality in life. And when he went to America, he went to his father. He didn't know anybody. He didn't have any money. And he asked his father, Father, maybe you will find it in your heart to support me, to fund me. And his father said, never. I would never do it. The next morning he gave him a large check for his work in America because it was from Divine Mother. And it reminds me of the story of, I think it was Swami Rama Tirtha, I'm not exactly sure, but he was going to America and he was on a ship and some American man said, well, where are you going? And he says, well, I'm teaching, I have a work there to do. And he said, well, do you have someone sponsoring you? And he said, no. And he said, well, do you have any friends? And he said, yes, I have one. And he said, well, who is it? And he said, it's you. And I don't know if people know the rest of that story, but that one man funded his whole campaign in America. And it was from Divine Mother. And when Master first went to the U.S., he stayed in very humble dwellings. He was at the YMCA, YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association, and he just had a very simple room there, but Divine Mother started sending his disciples to him, and one point Dr. Lewis came. It was his first Kriya Yogi disciple there, and they were sitting in this simple room where Master was, and Master kept telling Doctor, it's going to be big, Doctor, it's just going to be big, and meaning his work in the U.S., and Dr. Lewis would look, and he just thought, he just couldn't see how it was going to happen. And it grew, and Rajasi came, and Mr. Black, and of course Dr. Lewis, and many of his first disciples, and they were the ones who were able to launch Master's work financially. And at one point he was walking in San Francisco, Yoganandaji, and he was thinking he'd like to go on a campaign, a teaching campaign across America. And of course that would take a lot of money, the publicity and the halls and everything. And so he told his secretary, I'm going to be going, he just announced it, he didn't think about it. He says, I'm going to be going on a campaign to teach. And the secretary said, well, how are we going to fund it? He says, the Master said, well, we have $200 in the bank. And the man said, he almost fell off his chair. He thought, how are we going to go somewhere with $200? And Master said, why do you lose your faith? God will support us. And so he was walking in San Francisco, and a man came up to him, and he said, I want to help your work. He must have been wearing robes or turban or some distinguishing. Of course, he was Indian, he had long hair, he had beard, and you didn't see that in America in those days. So this man said, well, I want to help your work. And Master said, "You don't even know who I am." And he says, "I know who you are from your eyes." And he wrote him a check for $27,000 on the spot. And that, of course, did the campaign, and he was able to start a magazine and various things. It was all from Divine Mother. And everything that we have, we think our assets are our car, our nice house, the jewelry that we have, and I have money in the bank, or my safe is stocked up, or I have the land, or people, this is what I own. Well, you won't own it when you leave this earth. It's just going to be gone. But everything is given from God, and we're stewards. We're holding these as long as needed, and we pass them on. And I remember before I became a Nayaswami, I had a set of pearls that I liked to wear. And I just loved pearls. And every time Swamiji would see me with those pearls, he'd say, "Now, where did you get those from?" And I said, "Oh, I bought them from wherever it was." And I never had the right answer. And then one time I had on some little diamond earrings. And he said, "Where did you get those from?" He was just teasing, He said, and I never gave the right answer. I bought them at such and such a place. And he kept pestering every time he sees them. "Where did you get that?" And he really wanted me to say, Swamiji is from Divine Mother. And we should think of everything we have. All the things we have, they came from Divine Mother. And she's so sweet and thinking of things we don't even really absolutely need. And I've seen it so many times in my life. Somebody comes and they say, "Oh, I brought you this," and I would think, I was just having that little desire for that, like Swamiji with the Swiss chocolates. He was wanting them, and you probably know the story. And he forgot to tell his parents, and so then someone from the church, the Hollywood church, I think, just showed up and said, and it was on his birthday, and he was thinking for his birthday, you like the chocolates. It wasn't like Divine Mother was saving his life. She was just giving him something so sweet. And a lady said, "I saw these chocolates in the window, and I thought, window of a store, and I thought you might enjoy them, so I brought them over for you." And just think of the sweetness in that. Everything is coming from God. And all of our talents. Remember what Master said to Rajasi, never forget where your power is coming from. And we could be chanting, or we teach yoga, or we go to our job, or I'm this, well, no, it's coming from Divine Mother. and that time when Master told Swamiji to get more devotion, so he began to chant, and he said, "Oh, I'm getting very soft now, whatever, I'm getting more devotion." And he thought because he was chanting, he was getting the devotion. He was making that happen. And they heard Master had said to a group of devotees, "Look how I'm changing Walter." So we can't even claim that anything, my talents, I've done this, I'm doing this right. And any talent that we have is coming from God. When you look at Swamiji's life and all the music that he wrote, and the communities and all the books, and remember he wrote the Bhagavad Gita here in India over at Guru Kripa, and in 2 months that book flowed through him. And he said, "Master gave it to me." He was just very clear. I mean, how can you write something like that? Devendra wrote, he read that this morning, but the commentaries from Master, Swamiji wrote those. So deep and esoteric, he wrote them. He said, "My Guru gave that to me." And every talent that we have, if it's a talent to sing, if you have a beautiful voice, if you have, if you can speak, if you can lead meditations or yoga or energization or lead your company or whatever, it's a talent that even if it's from other lives, it's from Divine Mother. And there was a story of Edgar Casey where he had done a past life reading for a woman, and she had very beautiful hands, and he told her her hands were beautiful because she had scrubbed the floors of the churches. It's a very beautiful story, and I don't know how people claim that what they can do it. I mean, you can't do anything without God. You can't digest food, you can't see, you can't walk, you can't eat, you can't think, you can't sit, you can't stand, you can't do anything. The fact that we're sane in this room is the fact that Divine Mother's helping us to be sane and balanced in our mind. And so she's giving all of these gifts and asking us to just remember that they come from her. It's pretty simple. And I remember a woman at Ananda village who had a beautiful voice, and she's not there anymore, but she stayed connected over the years. And Swamiji would always have her sing the soprano solos because her voice was so beautiful. It was just, whoa, whoa. And then, you know, after a while, she started thinking her voice was beautiful. Oh, he always chooses me, I can sing, my voice is beautiful. And you know what? She lost her voice for a while. She got into ego and she lost that talent. It didn't last that long, but you see, if you say, oh, it's me, then the rug is pulled from out from under you. And so everything, we just keep giving it to Divine Mother. And I remember this wonderful story of, I think it was James Collier. The master told him to give talks, and I mean, they didn't really want to give talks, but they would do whatever their guru said. So he said, okay. So he said, well, Master, I'm nervous. What should I do? And Master said, take a long hot bath before. And so he gets in the bathtub and he soaks and he soaks and he soaks, and by the time he got out, he was just a limp rag. So he said the bath was too long and too hot. So he goes to give the satsang, and in the class was what yoga can do for you. He talked for 5 minutes because he just couldn't talk anymore. There was nothing there. But and then there was a man who was James Horace, the spastic man who was helping. Master told him, you go and help at the classes. And so he could barely talk, he could barely walk, but he used whatever Divine Mother gave him, and he would go around helping. And anyway, the talk was kind of bombed out. But one disciple came, a deep, close disciple, Master came from that talk. And you know, people think if I'm brilliant, if people, and you know, it's Divine Mother. She's the one who's calling the souls, and if we can rely on her for everything. I remember when before I came to India in 2004, there was a pilgrimage coming here from America. And you know, before I came to India, I wasn't ever really thinking to come to India. I never, ever in my life dreamt I'd ever live in India. I never had a desire to live in India. I didn't have a desire to come to India. I just know India for me. And then suddenly, everything opened up. So I recall, we had a work here then. Swamiji had come in 2003. So this was 2004, and there was a pilgrimage coming, and I thought, well, maybe I should go, you know, at least to see what's happening with our work. And this was about, 3 months before the pilgrimage. And I thought, well, I just want to make sure it's right. So I prayed to Master, and I asked him, is it right for me to go? And if it's right for me to go, help me to go. And Master, Divine Mother, I saw as the same. So I was in Ashland, Oregon, and I was going to give a satsang that night. And I had the book, Songs of the Soul. And I prayed to Master, should I go? And I wanted to hear his words, and I opened the book, and the page was My India. And I'll tell you, that never happened to me before. And so I read that, and I thought, well, that could be a sign. So then I went to give the talk, and the program was from Friday to Sunday. So every day I was going and doing various things, Kriya things and whatever. By the end of the weekend, I had $6,000. People were just giving me money. They had no idea about India, nothing. They just wanted to give gifts. And I was sure by the end of the weekend, because I saw that poem and I had the money, I was supposed to go to India. Now that was a really important thing, because 3 months later I was living in India. And obviously Master opened the doors, and he opened my mind to thinking about India because it wasn't there before. And when I I remember when I came back, well, while I was here the first time, Swamiji kept saying, you must be in India, you must live in India, India is your home. And he went on and on. I just was sort of waking up to India. And then he said, then at the very end of my trip, he looked at me and he said, but not yet. I was completely confused. So I went back to America, I went back to my job, and then suddenly, I was supposed to come to India. Swamiji wanted me in India. And I remember I called him and I said, Swamiji, so I'm coming back and I'm coming for 5 weeks. And he said, yes, 5 months. And I said, yes, so Swamiji, and I thought we had a bad connection. It's 5 weeks, I'm coming for India, my ticket's for 5 weeks. He said, yes, you're coming for 5 months. And I didn't want to say it again, so I just let it go. And but within the time I was supposed to come to India, within one day, I had the money to come to India. Someone gave me a ticket. Within 3 days, I had a visa. Within 1 week, I was flying. Where am I going? I didn't even know. And I'll never forget when I arrived. I was in the Metropolitan Mall right here. And Swamiji was there, because they said, Swamiji wants to see you right away. And when I got here, Swamiji was coming out of the store, and he had his hands out. And he was just waiting for me to come to India. Now, you look, 6 months before that, I had no idea. Master and my mother were completely guiding me. And they opened every possible door. And I was completely relying on them. I didn't know where I was supposed to go, what am I supposed to do. And you see, time after time, if you really trust in God, they help you. And you look at Swamiji's life, how, well, there's countless stories. I hope you can get these talks, because this is where I just get so much strength and faith from the talks. And Swamiji told a story when he wanted to come to India one time in the 50s. He had an older model car, and the car threw a rod. I don't know what that means, but something happened bad to the car. So he only had $1,000 for his ticket and his trip to India, and because the car was broken, he needed a car. Where we live, as you can see, is way up in the hills. So he said to my mother, if you want me to go to India, you're going to have to help me. I'm going to just put this money into a car, because when I come back, a used car, of course, very used, and he had a little bit of extra money. I think the car cost $1,600. So he got the car, and that was Friday. By Monday, someone slipped an envelope under the door of his house saying, use this money as Divine Mother wants you to use. Now, nobody says Divine Mother in America, let me tell you, it's just the Ananda people. It was for a check for $1,000. Exactly that amount. How can we go so far and keep saying, nobody's listening to me? Well, they are listening. And same with, we have Rajasi Day at Ananda Village, which everybody goes and serves, and you know, it's the whole community, and we just clean up the community, sort of like a spring cleaning. And so there was a list of things that were needed, and one was to pave the roads, and that was for $3,000. And so who can afford that? That's years back, nobody could afford that, but Swamiji, possibly, and he said he didn't have a dime. But he said, Divine Mother, we need some roads here. So he signed up to provide the money for the roads. And within 2 weeks, he said, his birthday came up. Yeah, because his birthday's the 19th, Rajasi Day is, I think, first week of May. His birthday came, and someone gave him a check for $3,000, again, just under the door. And he said that went right for the roads. He just had a constant conversation with God about what his needs were. And you know the Carmel story, I won't go into that, but it's such a beautiful story. The only thing I'll say about it, Who doesn't know the Carmel story? Everybody knows. So the beautiful thing about, you don't know the Carmel? Okay, so I have to tell the Carmel story. So Swamiji had finished the Raja Yoga lessons, and he wanted to go celebrate with Divine Mother. It wasn't he wanted to go celebrate. Now see, this is the difference. People say, I'm going to do this myself, with me and my friends, whatever. He said, I want to celebrate with Divine Mother. So he goes to a beautiful seaside area. Many people go on vacations there, which is in California, in Carmel. And Swamiji used to love to go to Carmel for years and years and years. And but, you know, in Ananda, the salaries aren't very high, you can pretty much imagine. But the joy level is very high. So Swamiji went to Carmel, and he had only so much money. And, you know, there was a choice of sort of a, you know, a nice, not very nice place to stay, or a beautiful place. So he goes to the beautiful place, and he says, well, you know, he starts talking to the man, and then he thinks, I don't really have money, too much money for this place, but I'll just see what Divine Mother wants. So he says to the man, I'll pay you now. He didn't want to say, because I might not have the money later. He says, I'll pay you now. And the man says, no, don't pay me. And for his room. And he says, well, why? I mean, and he says, no, don't pay me at all. And it was an expensive room. And he says, well, why not? He says, well, I don't know. I just like you. Now, how many times does that happen to you? I just like you. And then the next day he went for his meal, lunch or something, and he, you know, Swamiji, he had such a big aura. People just went right in, the high energy. And he was sitting, he had his meal, and he talked with the guy there that managed the place. And then when he went to pay, the man said, no, don't pay me. He says, no, but I just, no, don't pay. Now that's a wonderful story, isn't it? I had the same thing happen. Not in Carmel, but when Karpani was here. It's never happened to me ever before. But we went to a place in Bangalore where Swamiji stayed. The last time, the only time I know he was in Bangalore. And we wanted to stay there because Swamiji stayed there, and you know, we wanted to remember him. So we went, and you know, we got the cheapest room possible because, you know, that's all we could afford, but we wanted to be there for Divine Mother, Swamiji. So we were there in the lobby, and they, you know, said, okay, now we'll take you to your room. We get to the room, and they open the door, and it's a huge suite with a big bedroom, and bath, and living room, and a floor butler. And the butler remembered me and Ananda from before, very nice guy. He was in there with chocolates and cookies, plates of cookies. He kept walking around, which kind would you like, madam? And do you like these fruits? I said, I'd rather have those fruits. He brought in more fruits, and he made hot chocolate. You know, he was going on and on. And I just knew it was from Divine Mother. But when that happened, I looked at Karpani, I said, did you upgrade us? She says, I didn't upgrade us. And she said, did you upgrade us? I said, I certainly didn't upgrade us. And then the lady says, I upgraded you. And it was like she was the instrument for Divine Mother. There was no reason whatsoever for her to upgrade us, none. Then we went the next day to Chennai. And here we are, you know, here we're going again. We get the cheapest room, but we're there, and you know, we're celebrating with Swamiji, and we go, and they take us to our room, and now we're in a cottage on the beach. And look at Karpani, I said, have you upgraded the room? He says, no, did you upgrade? I said, I certainly didn't upgrade the room. It was like 10 times the expense of the little room. And the lady again says, I upgraded the room. Now, that's Divine Mother. We didn't need an upgrade. She wanted us to have that. She wanted us to know of her love. It is so sweet. But even if times are difficult, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it's hard. Like masters said that they had to plant tomatoes, you know, and have tomato soup, tomato stew, tomato roast, whatever, everything, tomato salad, because they didn't have any money. But they still had the love for God. Divine Mother was still with them. wasn't that she had abandoned them. And I remember in Italy, when I was talking to Devi recently, and she said, "Do you remember, Dhyana, when we lived in Italy together? You know," she said, "it was horrible." And I said, "It was horrible." She said, "We didn't have any, we didn't have food, nobody was coming, we were freezing in that house." And she said, "But we had joy. We kept each other's energy up. We had Divine Mother, we were doing it for her, and we were happy. That was our only asset. You know, I mean, many times we hardly could eat dinner, but we can make up for it now. But the joy was so high. And remember what Swamiji told the story of when the temple burned down at Ananda village, the meditation retreat, not that temple, but another one. And he said that he just laid down on the ground, he was camping out, and he just was talking to Divine Mother, and he said, "Divine Mother, have I done something wrong? Is it something displeasing to you?" And he felt this flood of bliss come through him. And he said he was just weeping for joy. And he said, "If I'm going to feel this much bliss, take all the buildings." He said, "Whatever you want." He realized it was she inside of him. And if it's good or bad, if you have this, what does it matter? The next day he went to the corner store and he was singing. And the lady at the counter said, "You just lost your tempo. How can you be singing?" And he said, "I lost the tempo. I didn't lose my voice." And he didn't lose his joy. And these are the things to remember. And same when the Ananda completely burned down. People were joyfully fixing things up. You know, we still had, I wasn't there at the time, but you hear the stories, people still had God in their hearts. It wasn't, we were living for God, not things. So if Divine Mother gives you a lot, take it. She gives you little, take that. But inside, remember always that it's only she. Any talent you have, anything you have, any relationship you have, good, bad, up, down, whatever, it all comes from Divine Mother, and it comes from the Masters. And as we realize that, we realize that God is behind everything. Swamiji, at the very end of his life, you remember, he could barely walk, he could barely stand, he had to have someone, to hold on to. He couldn't get up, he had to have someone to help him. Remember his voice, he could barely sing anymore. His voice would crack. But he could still give God. No matter, he just gave that vibration to people. And he was in so much joy. No matter what his body was going through, he was in joy. He told us, I'll end with the story, that he had, years back, he had this kidney attack. And it was so painful that he was supposed to give a satsang, and he said he just couldn't do it. And so it was quarter to the time he was supposed to go, and he just, people were saying, let's go to the doctor. What he says, I just can't move. He said it was so painful. And then he just told Divine Mother, he said, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to help me. This is a prayer a devotee should have. If you want me to do it, you have to help me. He said, you'll have to take the pain away if you want me to speak. And he showed us, in the past couple of years, he said, just like this, that quickly, the pain was gone, and it was replaced by such a deep bliss. He said, I went there and I still couldn't speak because of Divine Mother's joy. She's the only asset. We remember that. Everything else will work out for the best. God bless you all. Let's meditate just a moment.